Something about this forest feels wrong. The air is still, heavy with a metallic scent. Pines grow twisted and uneven, their trunks curving as if pulled by an invisible hand. Their needles are the color of old straw, not green. The soil beneath them is silent, almost sterile. Spiderwebs hang crooked between the branches, warped and broken, strands missing as if their builders forgot the pattern halfway through. Red firebugs crawl across the forest floor, but their markings, normally perfect black diamonds, are warped and asymmetrical. A bird drifts overhead, its flight uncertain, its beak bent out of shape. Nothing here feels natural. This is no ordinary forest. It lies deep inside the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, one of the most radioactive places on Earth. Nearly 40 years ago, this place was ground zero for the largest nuclear disaster in human history. On the night of April 26, 1986, in the Soviet Union, a safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant went catastrophically wrong. Reactor number 4 exploded, blasting open its roof and ejecting tons of radioactive material into the air. The explosion lit up the night sky with an eerie blue light. A column of fire rose from the reactor core, carrying with it microscopic particles of uranium, iodine, and cesium, each atom a tiny bullet of radiation. Within minutes, the radiation began seeping into everything, into the air, the soil, the rivers, into every living cell it touched. A deer grazing near the plant that night staggered and collapsed. Inside its body, the radiation tore through its tissues. Cells broke apart, blood vessels burst, the lining of its stomach and lungs burned away, its organs failed one after another. By sunrise, it was dead. The same fate met countless animals nearby. The land itself began to change. Within days, the pine trees surrounding the reactor turned yellow, then bright crimson as their chlorophyll died. The forest glowed red under the morning sun, and from then on it would be known as the Red Forest. But it wasn't just the forest that was dying. A few kilometers away, the town of Pripyat woke up to confusion. People complained of sore throats and nausea, not realizing they were being poisoned by radiation. A faint haze drifted over the city, invisible, tasteless, but deadly. That morning, the Soviet authorities told the residents that there had been a small accident at the power plant. Nothing to worry about. Just a temporary evacuation. 3 days, they said. Pack a small bag, leave your pets behind. You'll be back soon. Buses rolled in, families boarded, dogs barked at the departing vehicles, confused, as their owners vanished down the road. They never came back. In the days that followed, soldiers went door to door, ordered to kill every stray animal to prevent the spread of contamination. The air echoed with gunshots. The dogs that survived fled into the woods, joining the wild. Over time, their descendants became feral, roaming the empty streets and forests of Chernobyl, mutts born of abandonment, living proof of the disaster's human cost. For weeks, radiation levels remained lethal. People sent to clean up the mess, the so-called liquidators, worked without proper protection, shoveling radioactive debris from rooftops. Many died within days. Thousands more would suffer from radiation sickness, cancer, and genetic damage for decades. The world watched in horror as news of the explosion finally broke through Soviet secrecy. The scale of the contamination was unlike anything ever seen. But time changes everything. The radiation slowly decayed. Humans stayed away. And in that absence, something unexpected happened. Nature began to return. At first, cautiously, moss creeping over concrete, saplings sprouting through asphalt, birds nesting in the silent city. Then faster. Fields turned into meadows, forests swallowed entire villages. Pripyat became a jungle of birch and pine. What was once a place of tragedy became, paradoxically, a sanctuary. Without humans, wildlife flourished. Wolves hunted through the ruins. Wild horses galloped down empty roads. Foxes made dens beneath rusted trucks. Bears, moose, bison, eagles, all returned. But there was a price. The radiation never disappeared. It lingered, invisible, embedded in the bones of the earth and the DNA of its creatures. Biologists came to study what had happened here. They found that many animals looked normal at first glance. But under closer inspection, the damage was clear. Birds with cloudy eyes, cataracts caused by radiation exposure. Swallows with deformed beaks or missing feathers, mice with tumors, insects with twisted legs or malformed wings. The cause lay deep inside their cells. DNA is the code of life, a long spiral of instructions that tells every cell what to build and how to function. Radiation scrambles that code. When radioactive particles decay, they release bursts of energy that slice through molecules, breaking the DNA strands apart. Sometimes the cell repairs the damage. Sometimes it makes a mistake. A single, misplaced base pair, a deleted segment, and the instructions change. The result might be harmless or fatal. Over the years, scientists have documented thousands of such mutations in the Chernobyl zone. Some are visible, others microscopic. Most are random. But every so often, mutation becomes adaptation. Not all the changes are harmful. Some species seem to be evolving resilience. Frogs that once were green now appear black, their skin rich in melanin, the same pigment that darkens human skin in sunlight. Melanin can absorb radiation, protecting cells from damage. Researchers discovered that the darkest frogs often live in areas that were once the most contaminated. Whether coincidence or adaptation, the effect is striking. The creatures most at risk have, in some way, adapted to endure. Then there's the fungus. Inside the ruined reactor itself, where radiation levels remain high enough to kill a human within minutes, scientists found colonies of black fungi thriving. These fungi contain melanin too, but they seem to use it in a different way. They appear to convert radiation into chemical energy, almost like photosynthesis, life feeding on the very force that should destroy it. If confirmed, it would mean evolution has found a way to turn one of the most lethal energies on the planet into nourishment. It's hard not to find that astonishing. The larger animals tell their own story. Wolf populations inside the zone are now several times higher than in nearby regions. Free from hunting, they roam vast territories. Some biologists, like Cara Love at Princeton, believe these wolves might carry genetic traits that make them less susceptible to cancer. Constant exposure to radiation could have selected for individuals with stronger DNA repair systems. Those who survived passed on their resistance. Over generations, entire packs may have become hardier, their biology quietly rewriting itself in the shadow of disaster. But other scientists, like Timothy Musso, are cautious. He's been visiting Chernobyl for decades, setting up hundreds of motion-activated cameras and collecting samples from birds, insects, and mammals. He argues that while wildlife appears to thrive in sheer numbers, many individuals still suffer from reduced fertility, shorter lifespans, and higher mutation rates. The forest may look alive, but beneath the surface, the radiation's toll remains. Still, life endures. You can stand in the middle of the red forest today and see the full paradox of Chernobyl laid bare. Twisted pine trunks, thick with scars from radiation burns, rise above a floor carpeted with wildflowers. Elk tracks cross the dirt where Geiger counters tick faintly in warning. Overhead, an eagle circles. The land feels both alive and haunted, a reminder that recovery doesn't always mean healing. Then came another chapter of turmoil. In February 2022, war swept into Ukraine. Russian forces occupied the exclusion zone for weeks. Tanks and trucks tore through the forests, churning up radioactive dust that had lain undisturbed for decades. Scientists were forced to abandon their research. When they returned, their equipment was gone, their data destroyed. For a second time, human conflict disrupted the fragile equilibrium of Chernobyl. Even here, where no one was supposed to live, humanity found a way to return destruction. And yet, when the soldiers left, the animals came back again. Wolves resumed their patrols. Deer returned to graze. The silence reclaimed the land. The zone, it seems, belongs to nature now. Today, the exclusion zone covers more than 2,600 square kilometers. It's one of the largest accidental wildlife reserves in Europe. The radiation remains, but much of it has decayed into weaker forms. Visitors can walk through certain areas safely for short periods. Tourists photograph the empty Ferris wheel of Pripyat, the rusting school buses, the apartments filled with trees. For a moment, it feels like time stopped here. But in truth, time never stopped. It just changed direction. Chernobyl has become a symbol of contradiction. It's a monument to human failure and a testament to nature's resilience. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. What happens to the world when we leave it alone? What is the true cost of progress? Every living thing here carries the memory of that night in 1986, the wolves whose ancestors fled the gunfire, the frogs whose skin darkened to resist the invisible threat, the fungi feeding on radiation in the heart of a shattered reactor. Even the trees tell the story in their rings, growth interrupted, then resumed, life broken, then reborn. Standing in this forest, surrounded by silent reminders of catastrophe, it's hard not to feel a strange sense of awe. Not because of what humans built or destroyed, but because of what nature has done since we left. The disaster that once poisoned this land also freed it from us. With humans gone, ecosystems reorganized themselves. Predators returned, prey adapted. Rivers flowed clean again. The balance shifted in unexpected ways. In some parts of the zone, biodiversity is actually higher now than before the explosion. It's a paradox that challenges our assumptions. Maybe what hurts us doesn't always destroy nature, it just forces it to change. But make no mistake, radiation is still dangerous, hotspots remain lethal. The soil in some places will stay radioactive for thousands of years, mutations will continue, the exclusion zone will remain off-limits for generations, the cost of a single night's mistake will echo for centuries. And yet there's beauty here, a haunting, fragile beauty. Pripyat's apartment blocks are draped in vines. Sunlight filters through broken windows, painting patterns on walls where children once played. The wind carries the scent of pine and decay. Life has reclaimed what we lost. Scientists call Chernobyl an open-air laboratory for studying evolution under extreme stress. Philosophers might call it a mirror. It reflects both our capacity for destruction and nature's power to heal. It shows us that life doesn't just endure, it transforms. Even in the heart of the reactor, in the ruins that still hum faintly with radiation, the black fungus grows, silent and persistent. Perhaps one day, the same species could help protect astronauts from cosmic rays or clean up contaminated soil. From tragedy might come tools for survival. The story of Chernobyl isn't finished. The land continues to evolve. Some areas are being reforested. Others are studied for signs of long-term genetic change. Scientists debate whether the mutations they see are the first steps of new adaptations or just scars left by radiation-s fury. Maybe both. What we do know is this: life here has rewritten the rules. It has turned a wasteland into a living system. It has transformed death into persistence. It has shown that even when humans fail spectacularly, the planet keeps going. When you walk through the exclusion zone, you can feel it, the strange coexistence of decay and renewal. The buildings crumble, but the roots push deeper. The radiation lingers, but so does the pulse of life. It's unsettling and beautiful at the same time. Somewhere in the distance, a pack of wolves howls under a glowing sky. The sound echoes through the empty streets of Pripyat, bouncing off concrete and glass. It's a reminder that this place, once the scene of our greatest technological failure, now belongs to them. Chernobyl stands as both a warning and a promise. A warning of what happens when human arrogance collides with forces we barely understand. A promise that life, no matter how wounded, will find a way to return. And maybe that's the greatest lesson this forest can offer. The scars of the past don't vanish. They become part of the landscape, woven into every leaf and every cell. But in those scars, new life grows. Crooked, mutated, imperfect, but alive. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it. Beneath the hum of distant radiation, beneath the whisper of the wind through twisted branches, there's a heartbeat. Slow, steady, defiant. The heartbeat of a world that refuses to die.